Hey everyone, welcome to CCM Connect. You have Nellie and Hamilton here. And today we're going to be interviewing the wonderful Father Paul on what it's like to be a missionary priest. So we're going to dive right into it. So Father Paul, first question, what made you decide to become a priest?
I think to answer that, I never thought I was going to be a priest growing up as a little kid. I was very stubborn and actually causing a lot of trouble in the house, that my siblings actually gave me the nickname Fighter and Bomber. And my parents, when they had it full, they kind of thought, how could they reform me? And they had sought the advice of one of our parishioners, an old woman, and she said, send him to the minor seminary, he will get reformed there. And I remember the day my dad brought up the topic, and I said, okay, I would love to go to a boarding school. I will be away from home, from the heat. But I made it very clear to my dad that I was never going to be a priest. So that's why my favorite prophet in the Bible is the prophet Jonah, because he was the one who told God, I'm not going, and did all he could not to go. But the Lord patiently went after him. So that's more of my story. The Lord patiently going after me. I got into the minor seminary, got into different groups, was doing all I could at some point to get expelled from the seminary. A couple of years after, my rector would tell me that, you know, at this point I discovered you were trying to be thrown out, and that was the very reason why I didn't throw you out. So probably when I hit my rock bottom, and I had a spiritual experience of God's mercy and grace, and I think the mercy of God, as we celebrate Divine Mercy today, pulled me, and I kind of looked at myself. I said, Lord, if you had all this patience to go after me, maybe give me the patience to go after others. So that became for me the point of vocation, and gradually everything unfolded from there.
That's an awesome story, Father. I know you're part of a missionary society. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I belong to the Missionary Society of St. Paul of Nigeria, and it's a missionary congregation of priests, and our work is primary evangelization or secondary evangelization, where the gospel has been proclaimed and needs to be kind of re-explained. So we work in different parts of Africa. We work in the Caribbean. We have missions in different parts of Europe. We're working in many dioceses also in the US, in the Bahamas, in the UK, and South Africa, Cameroon, the Gambia, Liberia, Southern Sudan, and Kenya. So currently we have almost about 300 plus priests spread in different parts of the world.
And can you tell us what it's like to be a part of that missionary? Like your experiences? My
experience, I think one of the reasons why I decided to be a missionary priest was, I mean, if you look at myself growing up, I grew up with a sense of adventure, and that probably helped me in making a decision on the type of priest I wanted. I wanted to, like my patron saint, who is St. Paul, who, reading about him, he traveled to new places, different places. St. Paul has been my patron saint, and that's one of the reasons why also I joined the Missionary Society of St. Paul also. And the charism of proclaiming the gospel to different parts of the world, to new persons, new culture, that actually challenged me, because I kind of felt, you know, it's trusting God, walking into the unknown, and that was a motivating factor for me to decide into becoming a missionary priest. And the congregation members of comes from different places, so it becomes a melting pot of different personalities, people from different cultures. So that has been one of the things that have also been a motivating factor for me.
That's really great.
Yeah, so I'm assuming you've been stationed other places, and I'm wondering what was your favorite place that you've celebrated Mass?
The favorite place I've celebrated Mass would be in Southern Sudan. Why I said Southern Sudan was it was a completely different culture from the normal. First of all, there we celebrate Mass by 10 p.m. at night on Sunday, because the people are a semi-nomadic people. So in the morning they take out their cattle, their goats and sheep to the pasture. So if you have Mass during the day by 9 a.m. you won't get anybody. So Mass is fixed on a Sunday when they've brought back their sheep and then they're at home. And celebrating Mass in a different language, and uniquely there we try to get the people and also the children, because you are hoping that eventually the children will pick up the faith growing up with it, because with many of the adults, after we celebrate Mass that evening, then one of the adults comes to meet us that and says, okay, Father, now that we've helped you to worship your God, what are you going to give to us? which means they helped us in worshiping our God. So we have to, so there we have to for the children who opened schools. You run like, as you're not just a priest, you're also a health worker with the nurse who is working with you. We do 3 months in, 2 weeks out, because from civilization you are 12 hours drive from civilization. So you come out for 2 weeks, buy all the resources you need for the next 3 months, and then you drive in again. So you go with a teacher, a nurse, a guide, because this is also part of it's a conflict zone. They've been out of a civil war, so you almost like everything to everybody.
And how many exactly countries have you served?
I've worked in Africa, different parts of Nigeria, worked in Kenya, also in the Formation House, celebrated Mass there. I spent some time in Southern Sudan, celebrated Mass there. I've had the opportunity of visiting South Africa also and celebrating Mass there. So I've also had the opportunity to study in Ireland and also help out with celebrating Masses there, and also in the UK also. So I can say I've kind of celebrated Masses in worked and celebrated Masses in 3 continents, in Africa, in Europe, and in the America.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so I guess your most recent stationings have been here in the
Here
U.S.
in the US, yeah.
What was the biggest culture shock coming from, on the other side of the pond to the Americas?
I think for me the biggest cultural shock would be, let me kind of wrap it within a level of some greater individualism here in the US, because working in Africa there's a greater sense of community life. And let me kind of put it in an experience. I was in an airport, about to catch a flight by midnight, and I had gotten to the boarding gate on that particular day, and I was kind of pretty tired, so I kind of plugged in my phone and just sat down. To kind of cut the story short, as I sat down I fell asleep, and I woke up just as the plane was pulling away from uh, the boarding gate, and I kind of, there was the part of me that I thought, okay, probably they would have called my name, and all those who were around me, like in other places where I would have walked, would have kind of tapped me on the shoulder. Oh, it's time to board.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, you are just, I mean, you were on your own. So, so that for me was the cultural shock in terms of that level of independence, individualism, and learn to do things yourself.
Is it different celebrating Mass with people from different cultures, like different mannerisms and nuances of the liturgy?
Yeah, it is. Like I talked about, like in Kenya, I mean, celebrating Mass in Swahili, and in different places, culture is different. Different ways of expressing that culture. The liturgy itself, in terms of the rubrics, are the same, but the expression is different. Like if I were celebrating Mass in different parts of Africa, like Nigeria, there's a lot of dance. Like a lot of, like, let me you take the incense. In here we'll carry the thurible. Here for the incense and the thurible we'll carry a pot. And the pot is like you put the incense in the pot. So there's that inculturation. This, I mean, we're offering our prayers up to God, and the smoke of the incense rising up from the pot with the dance. When, like, the book of the gospel is carried, there is the traditional drum announcing the gospel. So there is a lot of dance activity. So you move over that, you move to Europe or in Ireland, the culture is also different. And then you come over to the US and the culture is different. But then the most beautiful thing for me is that wherever you attend Mass, and that is what talks about the universality of the church. I've attended Mass in Germany, in the UK, even if you don't understand the language, you know what is going on, because the liturgy is the same.
Is there anything else you would like to tell the viewers about, like, being a missionary priest, or like your experiences in general, like what you want to share to them?
I think for me, being a missionary priest, for me, it's been, I look back and I kind of thank God for that opportunity to be a missionary priest, in terms of it's widened my horizon. It's kind of increased my worldview in terms of I've kind of had to live with people from different parts of the world, taking their culture, embrace their own attitudes and the way they see God. So for me, that has been a privilege, and that has made me more patient. It has helped me to be less judgmental of people, because I know people come from different backgrounds, different worldviews. So it's kind of helped me to kind of become more Christ-like to others and be more understanding. And I think it's if I look at St. Paul, who is my patron, who kind of he kind of grew the more places he entered, he visited in his missionary journey. And that's why we have a wonderful corpus of the letters of St. Paul writing to different churches, which we benefit so much from. So I would kind of say, I mean, being a missionary has impacted on me. It's like everywhere I've visited has kind of, I've taken in a lot from that. And wherever I go to, that has also helped me to be able to share that experience with those to whom I minister to.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending the afternoon with us.
you.
We want to thank you for all the ministry you do here and helping us out with our campus ministry. Thank you for tuning in to CCM Connect. Next week we'll be speaking about the scandals in the church that have come up recently and diving deep into that. So be sure to tune in next week. And again, thanks for watching.
Thank you, everyone.